Imagine this, a sprawling airfield in the shadow of jagged Hindu Kush mountains, once buzzing with the roar of American C-17s and the hum of global power projection. Now it's a ghost of its former self, runway cracked, hangars empty, a symbol of hasty retreat. But what if I told you that today, on September 18, 2025, the United States is quietly circling back? President Donald Trump has just dropped a bombshell. America is negotiating to reclaim Bagram Air Base from the Taliban, not for old grudges, but to stare down a rising rival, China. Welcome to today's deep dive into this audacious pivot in U.S. foreign policy. Buckle up. We're about to unpack a story that's equal parts strategic chess, diplomatic tightrope, and a dash of geopolitical déjà vu. In a press conference alongside British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, Trump didn't mince words. "We're trying to get it back," he declared, pointing to Bagram's prime real estate, just an hour's flight from where China develops its nuclear arsenal. This is untitled chatter. Reports suggest talks with the Taliban kicked off as early as March, aiming to reinsert U.S. forces into this crown jewel of Central Asia. But why now? And at what cost? Over the next few minutes, we'll trace the base's haunted history, dissect the China factor, probe the Taliban tango, and weigh whether this is bold statesmanship or a risky roll of the dice. By the end, you'll see why Bagram isn't just a patch of Afghan dirt. It's a fulcrum for the next great power showdown. Let's start at the beginning, or at least, the American beginning. Bagram Airfield isn't your average airstrip. It's one of the world's largest military bases, with a 3,000-meter runway that can handle everything from B-52 bombers to cargo hulls the size of small towns. Built by the Soviets in the 1950s as a Cold War outpost, it became their launchpad for invading Afghanistan in 1979. Fast forward to the post-9/11 era, and the U.S. turned it into the nerve center of Operation Enduring Freedom. At its peak in 2012, over 40,000 troops cycled through Bagram's gates, pilots, logisticians, special forces, all fueling a war that cost trillions and reshaped the world. Picture the scene, dust-choked convoys snaking in from Kabul, Black Hawks lifting off for night raids, and medical teams saving lives in state-of-the-art field hospitals. Bagram was more than logistics. It was America's forward operating edge, projecting power across South and Central Asia. But by 2021, the script flipped under President Biden's withdrawal plan, rooted in the 2020 Doha Agreement signed during Trump's first term. The U.S. pulled out in a chaotic crescendo. The last C-17 lumbered off the tarmac on July 2nd, leaving behind $85 billion in equipment, including Black Hawks that now rust under Taliban watch. The Afghan government collapsed days later, Kabul fell, and Bagram. It sat abandoned for weeks before Taliban fighters rolled in, raising their white flag over what they called a victory trophy. That withdrawal wasn't just a logistical fumble. It was a seismic shift. Allies questioned U.S. resolve, adversaries smelled weakness, and the base's vacuum invited speculation. Enter China, which has poured billions into Afghanistan's mineral wealth via the Belt and Road Initiative, lithium deposits that could power 1 million EVs, rare earths for tech empires. Whispers of Chinese advisors scouting Bagram surfaced, though Taliban spokesmen like Zabihullah Mujahid have slapped those down, insisting it's firmly Afghan turf. Still, the optics stung. America out, a rival in sniffing distance. Now, fast forward to 2025, Trump's back in the Oval Office, and his foreign policy playbook reads like a sequel, America first, but with sharper elbows. His announcement isn't a bolt from the blue. It's the public face of months of back-channel diplomacy. The White House hasn't confirmed troop numbers or timelines, Pentagon stonewalling requests for details, but sources whisper about a light footprint deal, U.S. access in exchange for economic aid, counterterrorism intel, or even prisoner swaps. Trump himself framed it bluntly. The Taliban need things from us, he said, nodding to their pariah status, frozen assets, aid blockades, and a humanitarian crisis that's left millions hungry. But let's zoom in on the elephant, or should I say, the dragon in the room, China. Trump didn't just mention Beijing. He mythologized it. China now controls Bagram, he claimed, painting a picture of PLA engineers tinkering with captured gear. That's a stretch. U.S. intel reports no major Chinese military footprint there as of 2023. Yet the kernel of truth is undeniable. Bagram's perch in Parwan province puts it a stone's throw, strategically speaking, from China's western flank. We're talking 500 miles from Xinjiang's borders, close enough to eyeball the Lopner nuclear test site or the uranium mines feeding Beijing's arsenal. In an era of hypersonic missiles and drone swarms, that's not trivia. It's a dagger at the heart of great power rivalry. Think about it. China's Belt and Road snakes through Afghanistan, funding railroads and copper mines that could lock in supply chains for decades, a U.S. return to Bagram. It'd be like planting a stars and stripes tripwire right in the middle of that web, disrupting logistics, signaling resolve, and reminding Beijing that America's not folding its tent. Trump's pitch echoes his first-term trade wars: contain the dragon before it devours the neighborhood. And with tensions flaring over Taiwan, where China just reiterated its reunification threats at a Beijing Security Forum, Bagram becomes a chess piece in a global board. Subtle satire here. If geopolitics were a poker game, Trump's raising the stakes with a bluff that might just be a full house. Of course, no deal with the Taliban is a cakewalk. These are the same folks who harbored al-Qaeda, enforced burqas by bayonet, and now grapple with ISIS-K bombings in their backyard negotiations. They're pragmatic, not chummy. The Taliban want legitimacy UN seats, unfrozen billions from the Federal Reserve, and they've dangled Bagram as bait before. Remember 2022 rumors of a Chinese lease? Shot down, but it showed their willingness to shop the base around. Mujahid's quick rebuttal to Trump's China claim, it's under Afghan control, isn't just denial. It's a reminder, we're the landlords now, pay up or pack up. Challenges abound. Legally, Congress would need to greenlight any reinsertion, and with midterm winds blowing, hawkish Republicans might cheer while isolationists cry quagmire too. Oh, the 2021 exit left scars, 13 U.S. troops dead in a suicide blast, and public appetite for Afghan redux is tepid at best. Then there's the regional ripple. Pakistan, already twitchy about U.S. drones over its border, might see this as encirclement. Iran, they'd howl about Yankee imperialism. And China, no official peep yet. Their embassy in D.C. went radio silent when pressed, but expect editorials in Global Times decrying hegemonic meddling. Light criticism. This move risks turning a tactical foothold into a strategic sinkhole, echoing how Vietnam's light footprint ballooned into a bloodbath. Fairness demands we note, if the U.S. critiques Russia's bases in Syria for destabilizing the neighborhood, the same yardstick applies here. No free passes for stars and stripes. So what does reclaiming Bagram mean for the bigger picture? Short term, it's a win for deterrence. A U.S. toehold in Central Asia could stabilize counterterrorism ops, from tracking ISIS remnants to eyeing Uyghur militants that spook Beijing. Long term, it's a salvo in the Indo-Pacific contest, bolstering alliances like the Quad while pressuring China's Western ambitions. Imagine drone patrols over the Wakhan corridor, intel hubs feeding into AUKUS subs in the South China Sea. Its connectivity on steroids. But here's the rub: success hinges on subtlety. A heavy-handed return could ignite insurgency 2.0, alienating Afghans weary of foreign boots, or worse, provoke Beijing into accelerating its Afghan investments, turning economic ties into military ones. Trump's frustration with Putin over Ukraine, admitting the Tsar let him down on peace talks, hints at a broader pattern: deal-making diplomacy that charms foes but baffles allies, subtle humor in the irony. The man who promised to end endless wars is now auditioning for a sequel, with China as the villain and the Taliban as unlikely co-stars. As the sun sets on this September day, Bagram remains a powder keg of possibility, a base that could redefine U.S. posture or remind us why empires falter. Will Trump pull it off? Watch the wires from Doha and Islamabad. The next move might come sooner than you think. That's the dispatch for today. Stay informed, stay skeptical. Thank you for watching, and see you tomorrow.